Hi everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 of the Evaluating Sources workshop. So where we left off was I proposed this research question. So I'm taking a look at the American and the Finland education system, the K-12 system as far as elementary ed goes, and I'm trying to see if in America we could adopt the Finland system. So that's where I'm starting. Now, what I've done for you is on D2L, I've listed all of the sources that I'm going to encounter in this workshop. So I would encourage you to make sure that you have looked at those sources on your own and you've practiced lateral reading and you're trying to see if, first of all, if the sources are reliable, and then second of all, you're trying to see if they would prove to be useful to a project like this. Now, what I'm going to do in this video, I want to model some lateral reading, but at the same time, I don't want you to watch my computer screen, for 25 minutes looking at me opening new tabs and things like that. So what I'll probably do is simply say, okay, here's where I would open a new tab. Here's where I would do this. Here's where I would do that. I've already vetted these sources, so I will try to walk you through that process so that when you are ready to do this on your own, you will kind of know what to do to make your way through your own sources. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first source. So this is a YouTube video, and I'm throwing at you some sources like this because I want to kind of make sure you guys understand that, maybe some things from the past that you heard, oh, this is YouTube, you can't use anything from YouTube. Well, there's a lot of interesting scholarly material, believe it or not, on YouTube besides cat videos. So you can't just say yes or no based on this surface level stuff. So yeah, I do have a YouTube video here, and I see that this is called Finnish Lessons. It's from 2013, so it depends, right? As far as our research goes, that's still in the realm of possibility. I want you guys to remember that scholarly work takes a long time to research, to create, to be double checked really thoroughly by experts in the field and get it out there and get it published. It's not like a tweet that can go out there just instantaneously, and there's a reason behind that, right? There's a lot of checking that goes on. So, I wouldn't write out a source necessarily from 2013, depending on what it is. Okay, so I can see the speaker here. I see that this is, and I might want to do some double clicking on this to see if this is Harvard Graduate School of Education. So I would click here, see what maybe other videos that they have. I would read this little information here. I would also go and open a new tab, and I'm going to look at who the speaker is. So I see Pasi Sahlberg. And I'm going to start digging in here. So I see he's a Finnish writer, a Finnish educator. I would probably click on his bio from here, maybe look and see where else he's published. I would look and see, okay, so he wrote some books. Click on these. Interesting. Let's see. So he literally wrote the book on Finland education, Finnish Lessons, What Can the World Learn from Educational Change in Finland. I could go down and take a look at some publishing information. So, who published this? This happens to be the audio version, so I would kind of go to the paperback just to get some, better information on it. So I'm going to look up information about the author in my second tabs. I'm going to look up information about his book. But when I'm done with all that, I can actually see that Pasi Sahlberg is the, let's get back to our main source, is one of the leading experts on Finnish education. So I'm going to go ahead after I've done all my lateral reading, and I've looked up Harvard, I've looked up Sahlberg, I've looked up Finnish Lessons, I've looked at all this, and I've come to the conclusion that this is a reliable source. This is actually a lecture from one of the leaders of Finland's education. Now, this is an hour and 30 minutes, so I'm probably not going to automatically go ahead and read this, but I'm going to put this somewhere along the way of this might be really helpful, especially if I don't have time to read the book. This is something that I actually could tackle, and I might even see if there's a transcript somewhere so that I can see what he's talking about when. Okay, we're going to put that in the This Looks Good camp. Okay, this is our next source. This is from The Atlantic, and it's called What Americans Keep Ignoring About Finland's School Success. So I already have a general idea that this is a news article. What I would do next is I would open another tab and I would take a look at the Atlantic and just see what its publication roots are. I might look at that. If you've ever seen kind of news sources and where they sort of fall, is it more towards the middle? Is it middle ground? If not, how might its leaning be received by the reader of my paper? And I can also see that this is more of an opinion-based piece, even though there's going to be probably some facts in it, just because I'm seeing here they already think Finland is successful and they think Americans are ignoring it. I would also click on this author and see who she is. So this is a journalist. She has written a book. There you go. So she's a professional journalist. I would also probably open another tab and take a look at her outside of the Atlantic just to make sure I see what she's up to. So I've done that, and I see she's a credible journalist. So she's not an expert in the field, but she is someone who tends to write on this kind of stuff. All right, I'm going to scroll down just to kind of see. They've got some links in here that I also might find pretty helpful. Here's what I was trying to teach you guys earlier. So here, I'm already kind of getting a better feeling about, like, this person has done their research, so to speak. So she's also quoting one of the experts in the field. And this is where I was talking to you guys about sources talking to each other or sources popping up, one source to another. That's how you probably know you're on the right track. So if you're writing a paper on Finland's education and you're not talking about Sahlberg, then you're probably not, covering the topic like you should be, because this person is clearly someone that you should know. So that's really interesting to see how sources talk to each other. So I can scroll through here. I see probably some interviews and quotes from Sahlberg that I could probably utilize in my paper. And there's some links and things that also might prove helpful to me as I'm writing. So I would say this is a pretty good piece. I'd say it's credible, but I also have to keep in mind it's not necessarily an academic journal article. It is a news article, so I have to kind of weigh that out as far as how I would use it. But as far as credibility goes, it seems to be okay. All right, this is our next source. It says Diane Ravitch's blog. Again, this might be, one of those moments where you go, okay, it's a blog, that's a no, just because it's a blog. So what I would do, I would open a new tab. And I'm going to type in Diane Ravitch and kind of see who this person is. All right, so I would click on some links here. So I can just see automatically it's saying she's a historian of education. That sounds fancy. I would try to dig into what she's written. I would start clicking on some different links. I see that she's a research professor at New York University. She's connected with the National Education Policy Center. So I'm getting some decent feelings about her as I click on these links and as I read about her. And I can also go to the About section here. All right, so I'm already getting some ideas about this. I'm looking at the title, What These American Educators Learned in Finland. So I'm already getting the idea that this person is a legit author, but it is a blog and it's about their experiences in Finland. So this is kind of a personal narrative account of a Finnish perspective. And so there's not a lot of sources quoted, but she does mention it looks like a book that she has written herself. So this may prove useful. I don't know. This is something I would put into that camp of, I know that it's a reliable source, even though it's a blog, but also it depends on how I could use this source. I would potentially use this as an American perspective on Finland education based on that title that I'm looking at. All right, let's compare it to this one. This is also a blog, and see how I'm automatically determining the genre so I can think about what it is, how my readers might perceive it, how I might be able to use it. This is where 1010 comes in handy, right? To be able to identify types of sources. So this is a blog. I see it's written by Michelle Fung. It's called The Grumpy Giraffe. There's a contact and a smiley face. I'm seeing this is a WordPress, so that's a pretty good giveaway that this is a blog. I'm going to see who Michelle Fung is. Looks like she's just made some comments on YOLOs. Hello, I can contact her. Let's see, any information? No, nothing. I would go over here and see if I type in Michelle Fung, and I'll give you a hint. Michelle Fung is not an educational expert to my knowledge. I can find nothing about her. She just likes to critique social and education issues. I scrolled through. She's obviously got some opinions about it. Based on just looking at the idea of the grumpy giraffe, I don't know who Michelle Fung is. I don't really see, so she references, she talks about a popular infographic, but not a whole lot of, let's see if there's anything. There's a few hyperlinks. She's obviously interested into this. But overall, guys, this is just a blog, probably it could be written by a neighbor of yours, right? It's not necessarily, maybe Michelle has some interesting things to say. You might find interest in reading it. But as far as citing some of Michelle's ideas in my paper, that's not going to be the most reliable source because she's not an expert in the field. She's not a professional journalist. I don't necessarily have any research that she's done. So this one I'm going to put in the no camp. It might be something that I find interesting to read on my own and just kind of see what someone thinks about this stuff. But as far as using it in my paper, this one's going to be a no for me. You also might want to use the Walker Library to look up some of these people. Like I might type in Diane Ravitch here since she says she's a historian to see what kind of books and things she's written. Okie doke, let's see. I think I'm going to bring up another source first. Yes, this one is our next source. This one says source 3 on the video, but I'm not sure which one it is on your page. Okay, this one is Higher Education, Mobility and Inequality, the Finnish Case. So I see it comes from the European Journal of Education. If I found this through the MTSU library, I would probably know that it is okay, it's a credible journal, but believe it or not, there are faux academic journals out there that can try to trick you, and they're actually just kind of pay-for-play type journals. So you have to be careful about that and actually make sure it's a legit academic journal. I could go here, look at all these sources. So let's just say I've already looked up the European Journal of Education, I've looked up the authors, all of those things, and it is legitimate. But here's the problem. I'm going to scroll back to the top again. So I've looked this up. It's all good. These are legit people. My problem here, if you noticed when you were doing this on your own, two things. It was published in 1996. That's a bit outdated. And then the other thing is making sure that this actually fits with my research. So this is about higher education. And if you'll remember, my research is based on K-12 or elementary education. So with that, it is reliable. So this is an example of a source that's reliable, but it's not useful. All right, and here's our last source. This is Recent Evolution of Public Education in the U.S. and Finland. Can the Finnish model work in the U.S.? This is great. This is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to also look up, I already know, especially if this came from MTSU's library, which it did. We've got a reputable author. We've got a reputable journal, and it is a recent enough publication that I can use it. Okay, so hopefully this gave you an idea of how to start working through your sources via lateral reading and then checking for things like, is it reliable, first of all, and then second of all, is it useful in my research?